welcome back to our channel. These 1-cent pennies looks ordinary but might be insanely valuable. Like and subscribe to see if you have one too. In 1990, the United States Mint operated like a well-oiled machine. Its daily production was a flurry of precision and speed, churning out millions of coins to meet the nation's insatiable demand for currency. Among those, the 1-cent coin, the humble penny, stood as the workhorse of American commerce. Small, familiar, almost invisible in its ubiquity, it carried the stoic profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. By that year, over 6.8 billion Lincoln cents would be struck. But tucked somewhere deep within that tidal wave of copper-plated zinc was one coin that shouldn't have existed at all. 1 cent, bearing the date 1990, that would ignite the curiosity of the numismatic world and challenge the very systems designed to prevent such an occurrence. At first glance, the 1990 penny looked like any other. It held the same sheen, the same weight, the same reassuring clang when dropped on a counter. And yet, it would take a sharp eye, years of patience, and a little luck for someone to uncover the truth behind one of the most bizarre minting errors of the decade. Martin Hale had been collecting coins since childhood. A retired Navy technician living in Indiana, he had developed a precise eye for detail, an asset in both his former profession and his hobby. He wasn't wealthy, but he treated each coin show and garage sale like an archaeological expedition. For Martin, the thrill wasn't in owning rare coins, but in finding them where no one else thought to look. In 2006, he visited a small estate sale in rural Kentucky. A widow had put out her late husband's modest belongings, including several coffee cans filled with coins he'd collected over decades. Most of it was standard fare, common wheat cents, Roosevelt dimes, and a few beat-up war nickels. Martin bought 3 cans for a flat price of $20 and brought them home. They sat in his garage for nearly a year before he got around to sorting through them. What first caught his attention was not rarity, but weight. One of the 1990 pennies felt slightly different. It was imperceptible at first, but in his hand, the coin had a density that didn't match the others. He placed it on a scale. The standard 1990 Lincoln cent, struck on a zinc core with a copper plating, should weigh about 2.5 grams. This one weighed 3.11 grams. That was the pre-1982 standard, when pennies were made of solid bronze. But this coin was dated 1990. Perplexed, Martin examined it under his loupe. The strike was clean, with sharp detail in Lincoln's profile and the tiny steps of the memorial. No sign of tampering. No obvious doubling or mint mark error. It looked genuine. But the weight suggested something was wrong. He took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer gave it a curious look, ran his own tests, and said, "This isn't normal. You need to send it in." The coin was submitted to a major grading and authentication service. Weeks passed. Then came the report. Martin's penny was an authentic 1990 Lincoln cent, but it had been struck on a leftover bronze planchet, the type used in pennies before the U.S. Mint changed to the copper-coated zinc composition in 1982. Somehow, 8 years after the transition, an old bronze blank had remained within the Mint's inventory and had been mistakenly used. Such a mistake wasn't supposed to be possible. After the official switch in 1982, all bronze planchets were ordered destroyed or reprocessed. The Mint had taken extensive measures to prevent older blanks from re-entering circulation. And yet, here was irrefutable evidence that at least one had slipped through. It wasn't an experimental issue or a commemorative misprint. It was a minting error, pure and simple, and an incredibly rare one. As word of Martin's find spread, collectors and experts alike scrambled to understand how this error could have happened. One theory pointed to leftover stock. Perhaps a few bronze planchets had been misplaced in deep storage and only re-emerged during a routine sweep of the planchet bins. Another theory suggested human oversight, an employee mistakenly loading a small batch of outdated blanks into the coining press. No one could say for sure. What was certain, however, was the rarity of the coin. The discovery was only the beginning. In the years following Martin's find, a handful of other 1990 pennies with unusual characteristics came to light. One was struck on a foreign blank intended for a Canadian cent. Another bore no mint mark, despite being struck at Philadelphia, a sign of a possible die mix-up. But Martin's coin remained unique for one defining reason: its composition that he declined early offers. In 2009, a private collector in New York offered $22,000. By 2015, an online auction house estimated its value at over $45,000. Still, Martin held on to it. Not for the money, but for the satisfaction. It was, after all, his discovery, a 1-cent piece that defied the odds. Then came an unexpected twist. In 2018, during a routine reevaluation for insurance purposes, a numismatist examining the coin under ultraviolet light spotted something new. Within the fields of the coin, faint microscopic lines ran perpendicular to the standard coin flow. They weren't from circulation wear. They were striations consistent with a cleaning process used in pre-1982 blank preparation. That confirmed it, beyond any doubt, that the blank used was not only pre-1982, but pre-treated in a manner not seen since that era. The coin wasn't just an error, it was a time traveler, a leftover from a forgotten production run that had inexplicably resurfaced and become something more. By 2020, collectors began to refer to it as the Bronze Ghost. The nickname stuck. Its story appeared in numismatic journals, was featured at major coin expos, and was even the subject of a short segment on a cable documentary series about rare American currency. As its notoriety grew, so did its value. A prominent West Coast collector, known for acquiring only one-of-a-kind mint errors, made a private offer of $55,000. A year later, another came in at $92,000. In 2023, a bidding war between two international coin investors drove the appraisal as high as $105,000, though no formal sale took place. Today, the 1990 Lincoln cent struck on a bronze planchet remains a numismatic anomaly, its existence a testament to the imperfection that sometimes makes the ordinary extraordinary. In a sea of billions, this single coin emerged not as a product of intention, but of accident, oversight, and fate. What was meant to be a penny, a simple tool of commerce, became a storied artifact, carrying with it the weight of an era long past and a value far beyond what its denomination suggests. It's now valued between $55,000 and $105,000, depending on market demand and collector interest. And yet, even that figure can't fully capture the essence of its significance. In a world that often overlooks the smallest things, this penny reminds us that history, mystery, and value can be found in the most unassuming places, if only we care to look. In the spring of 2003, the coin presses at the Philadelphia Mint roared with relentless energy. Millions of Lincoln cents were being minted daily, following a process refined over decades. By then, the U.S. 1-cent coin had become more of a cultural staple than a monetary powerhouse. Its buying power had diminished, but its presence remained deeply woven into the fabric of daily American life. Most people never looked at it twice, until one coin from that year would quietly challenge everything known about quality control, minting precision, and the strange path a single copper-plated zinc disc could take. The Lincoln penny, with its enduring design unchanged since 1959, bore the face of the 16th president and the familiar Lincoln Memorial on its reverse. By 2003, the U.S. Mint had nearly perfected its production techniques. Errors, though not impossible, had become rare. The machinery was faster, more accurate, and digitally monitored. But even in this era of near perfection, a mistake managed to slip through. One mistake, hidden among billions, would remain invisible for years, until one man spotted something the machines missed. Ethan Voss wasn't your typical coin collector. A software engineer from Colorado, he had developed a habit of collecting unusual pocket change. Not for profit, but for curiosity. He was drawn to things others missed: misaligned die strikes, double dates, odd planchet flaws. His eye was sharp, trained by years of programming and code analysis. In 2010, Ethan was visiting his niece, helping her sort through a large jar of coins she'd saved since childhood to start a small coin collection for her school project. Most of the coins were recent, and Ethan almost dismissed them entirely. But one penny, dated 2003, held his attention longer than it should have. It wasn't glaringly different. At first glance, the coin looked normal. But under his magnifying loupe, the edges of the coin seemed off-center. The rim was uneven, and the letters of Liberty appeared almost melted into the field. Curious, he weighed it. The scale flashed 3.1 grams. That wasn't right. A 2003 penny, made of zinc coated with copper, should weigh 2.5 grams. The only pennies that weighed 3.1 grams were bronze, and those hadn't been produced since 1982. Puzzled, Ethan contacted a local numismatic society. They urged him to send the coin for grading and metallurgical analysis. The result stunned everyone involved. This 2003 penny had been struck not on the correct zinc core, but on a leftover bronze planchet, 21 years after the last bronze cent was supposedly minted, but it wasn't just the weight that intrigued experts. The coin showed signs of being struck by misaligned dies. Lincoln's profile was slightly rotated counterclockwise, and on the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial appeared shifted downward, cutting off a sliver of the base. It was a dual anomaly, a composition error and a strike misalignment, both virtually unheard of in such a modern minting year. How a bronze planchet survived past 1982, let alone entered a press in 2003, became the mystery. The mint had stringent controls in place. Old blanks were supposed to be removed, destroyed, or recast. Some speculated the blank might have been hidden in machinery for years, somehow missed during numerous cleanings. Others theorized a rogue blank was mixed in with foreign coin stock used for U.S. minting contracts overseas. A few more cynical voices suggested it was deliberate, slipped into the press by someone inside the mint for future gain. No theory could be proven. But the result was indisputable. Once certified by a leading grading service as a genuine bronze 2003 Lincoln cent struck with misaligned dies, the coin was entered into numismatic databases. For a time, it was thought to be one of a kind. Then, in 2013, another surfaced. This one weighed the same but lacked the die shift. It too had been struck on a bronze planchet. The discovery confirmed the possibility that a small batch of rogue blanks existed during that year's production, an anomaly hidden in plain sight. Ethan refused to sell the coin despite multiple offers. A collector from Florida offered $18,000 shortly after the initial grading. A dealer from Texas went as high as $28,000. By 2015, a private collector of mint errors made an unsolicited bid of $40,000. Ethan declined each one. For him, the coin represented something far greater than its monetary value. It was evidence that even the most precise systems can fail. That errors, beautiful, bizarre, impossible errors, can still emerge in a world that claims to have perfected process. Then came an unexpected layer to the story. In 2018, a leading numismatist cross-referenced the minting batches from the Philadelphia Mint in 2003 and found a brief maintenance report logged in April of that year. During a routine cleaning of the coining press, several foreign objects, including older planchets, had been discovered and removed. The report mentioned that a handful of blanks appeared darker and were set aside for scrap, but no follow-up documentation existed. Could one of those planchets have been loaded into the coin press before being discovered? It seemed increasingly likely. By 2020, only 3 2003 bronze pennies were known to exist. Of those, only Ethan's coin carried both the wrong composition and the double-strike misalignment, making it unquestionably unique. Its reputation grew. It became known among collectors as the last bronze echo, a final accidental whisper from a bygone era of American coinage. Collectors and investors began circling. A verified auction listing pegged its worth at a conservative $50,000. Another private bid in early 2022 went as high as $88,000. Later that year, a sealed envelope arrived at Ethan's home. Inside was an official appraisal letter and a buyout offer from a major East Coast coin investment firm. The amount was $95,000, payable within 7 days. It was the highest offer to date. Ethan sat with the letter in silence, the coin resting in its secure acrylic case in front of him. He didn't immediately respond. Even now, the coin remains in Ethan's possession. He sometimes brings it to local coin shows, where it's displayed in a small, locked case. Children press their faces to the glass. Adult collectors lean in, their expressions a mix of admiration and disbelief. The coin looks so plain, just a penny, dated 2003. But those who know understand what it truly is. A time-worn mistake with a modern face. A relic of error, preserved by chance. Today, the 2003 Lincoln cent struck on a bronze planchet with strike misalignment holds an estimated value between $50,000 and $95,000. But its legacy stretches far beyond its price tag. It stands as proof that even in a system driven by automation, perfection is never absolute. And for collectors, that imperfection is precisely where the magic begins. The year 2010 was one of quiet transition for the U.S. economy. As the nation continued to recover from the 2008 financial crisis, everyday transactions saw a surge in digital payments. Yet, the humble penny remained a constant in the pockets and coin jars of Americans. Among the millions of 1-cent coins minted that year, one stood apart, not because it gleamed brighter or bore a special mark, but because of a flaw so subtle it escaped detection for months. Hidden in plain sight, the Lincoln penny had undergone a significant transformation just the year before. In 2009, the reverse side had featured 4 unique designs commemorating Lincoln's bicentennial. But in 2010, the U.S. Mint reverted to a permanent redesign, a shield replacing the Lincoln Memorial, symbolizing unity and strength. This new shield cent marked the continuation of a legacy, with billions produced across the Philadelphia and Denver mints. By all accounts, the production process was seamless. Yet, history would prove otherwise. In late 2011, Jessica Ramirez, a part-time cashier from New Mexico with a budding interest in coin collecting, came across an unusual penny while sorting her drawer at the end of a shift. She wasn't an expert by any means, but she had recently attended a local numismatic club meeting where collectors shared stories of rare finds in everyday change. The tales of error coins intrigued her: double-die obverse, clipped planchets, off-center strikes. Jessica started paying closer attention to her coins, and one evening, she noticed something peculiar about a 2010 penny. Under the dim store lights, the penny seemed ordinary. But as she held it up, the color looked off, darker, richer, almost bronze-like. Jessica pocketed the coin, intending to examine it more closely at home. With a loupe borrowed from her grandfather's old stamp collection, she inspected it later that night. What she saw left her breathless. The penny weighed more than it should. It registered at 3.1 grams, identical to the pre-1982 bronze cents, yet the coin bore a 2010 date. Furthermore, the obverse showed Lincoln's profile slightly distorted, with the letters in Liberty appearing thicker on the lower half. On the reverse, the shield design was struck with a faint doubling effect, creating a ghostly shadow behind the shield's vertical stripes. Jessica's heart raced. Could this be an error coin? If so, how had a bronze planchet, phased out nearly 3 decades earlier, been used in 2010? She shared her discovery with her local numismatic club. The members were skeptical at first, but upon examining the coin, their skepticism turned into excitement. The club encouraged Jessica to have the coin graded and authenticated. The results confirmed their suspicions. Her penny had indeed been struck on a bronze planchet. Experts speculated that the planchet had somehow remained unnoticed in the mint storage for decades, only to be fed into the presses by mistake during a routine production run in 2010. But the mystery didn't end there. A closer examination revealed that the doubling effect on the reverse shield was a result of a subtle die shift during striking. This combination, a rare planchet error and a die misalignment, made the coin a unique specimen. While isolated errors occasionally occur, finding multiple anomalies on a single coin is exceedingly rare, especially in the modern era of high-tech minting. Jessica's story quickly made waves in the numismatic community. Her discovery reignited debates about the U.S. Mint's quality control processes. How could a bronze blank survive decades of scrutiny and still find its way into production? Speculations ranged from an overlooked storage batch to a mint employee deliberately introducing the old planchet, though the latter theory remained unproven and controversial. In 2013, another 2010 bronze penny surfaced, discovered by a collector in Ohio. This coin, while similarly struck on a bronze planchet, lacked the doubling error on the reverse, making Jessica's find even more valuable. By this time, major coin grading companies were tracking the anomaly, and the rarity of such an error began driving demand. Jessica's penny attracted significant attention from collectors and investors. In 2015, a private collector offered her $25,000 for the coin. She declined. A year later, a prominent auction house estimated its value at $50,000, but Jessica wasn't ready to part with it. For her, the coin was more than just an object of monetary value. It represented the thrill of discovery and the realization that extraordinary things can be hidden in the most ordinary places. By 2018, the coin's value had appreciated significantly. An anonymous bidder offered $70,000, followed by another offer in 2019 that surpassed $80,000. Jessica finally decided to auction the coin in early 2020. The bidding war that ensued was nothing short of dramatic, with collectors vying for a piece of modern minting history. The final hammer fell at $85,000, a record-breaking amount for a 2010-era penny. Today, Jessica's discovery is remembered as a landmark moment in modern numismatics. The 2010 bronze penny, weighing 3.1 grams with its unique doubling error, remains one of the most intriguing coins of its era. Its estimated value now ranges from $40,000 to $85,000, depending on condition and specific error characteristics. For collectors, it serves as a reminder that even in a time of technological precision, the occasional imperfection can become a masterpiece, capturing the imagination of a world always searching for the extraordinary. In the quiet rhythm of daily life in 2014, few Americans gave much thought to the coins passing through their hands. Debit cards and mobile payments were on the rise, and cash was slowly retreating into the background. Yet the U.S. Mint continued to press on, literally, striking billions of 1-cent coins that year, each one bearing the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse, a design introduced just a few years prior. The penny had become more of a symbolic artifact than a useful denomination, but it remained deeply embedded in the flow of everyday commerce. In that year alone, over 8 billion pennies were minted at facilities in both Philadelphia and Denver. The process was streamlined, precise, and closely monitored by machines and staff. Errors were theoretically rare, statistical anomalies rather than expected occurrences. Yet somehow, in that landscape of automation and oversight, a mistake not only slipped through but managed to survive the journey all the way into circulation, and later, into the gloved hands of someone who would see it for what it truly was. That someone was Jordan Myers, a postal worker from Oregon with a quiet love for coin collecting. He wasn't a dealer or a seasoned expert, but his interest had been cultivated over years of handling change, reading online forums, and studying minting techniques. He believed in the idea that rare coins could still be found in everyday pockets. So whenever he came across a coin jar, he couldn't resist sifting through it, looking for the overlooked, the unusual, the forgotten. In the summer of 2016, Jordan was visiting his cousin's house when he found an old coffee can filled with loose coins. His cousin, uninterested in coinage, let him take a look. Most were ordinary, dimes, quarters, worn nickels, the occasional Canadian coin. But a single 2014 penny immediately stood out. The color seemed slightly darker, the surface oddly matte. It felt heavier in his palm, enough to catch his attention. He slipped it into his pocket, made a mental note, and later brought it home to examine under his coin loop. What he saw made his pulse quicken. The penny bore a strong strike, but the metal surface seemed inconsistent with the zinc-based planchets used since 1982. Its texture hinted at a composition not normally seen in modern pennies. He weighed it. The scale registered 3.1 grams, more than a 2014 penny should ever weigh. The expected weight was 2.5 grams. What he was holding, possibly, was a modern coin struck on an obsolete bronze planchet. He sought confirmation, sending the coin to a reputable grading service. The verdict stunned him. It was genuine. A 2014 Lincoln Shield cent, struck on a bronze planchet, likely a leftover blank that had been misplaced or forgotten during production. Bronze planchets hadn't been used since 1982. Somehow, a blank nearly 3 decades old had found its way into the minting process and slipped into circulation, unnoticed. The grading didn't stop there. Microscopic examination revealed an unusual feature on the coin's reverse. The central vertical stripes of the Union shield appeared slightly doubled, a faint ghost image to the right of each line. This was not a common doubling caused by wear or machine doubling, it was a legitimate die error, a misalignment during striking that caused a doubled reverse. The error combination, a rare bronze planchet and a double die reverse, was enough to classify the coin as highly significant. Collectors and numismatists debated how such a mistake could happen in such a controlled environment. The prevailing theory suggested that a bronze blank, possibly intended for a commemorative foreign coin or misfiled from the 1970s or early 80s, had been accidentally fed into the presses in Philadelphia. The coin had passed through all inspections undetected. It took the eyes of a determined hobbyist to bring it to light. Jordan's discovery caused a stir in the online collecting world. Forums lit up with photos, grading reports, and speculation. Experts were impressed. This was no ordinary error. It was a hybrid of historic material and modern design, like finding a fossil embedded in fresh concrete. Several collectors reached out to Jordan with offers. One enthusiast offered $14,000. Another bumped it to $20,000. Jordan declined them all, curious to see just how far the market would go. He took the coin on a small tour, coin shows in Washington, California, and Texas. Each time, it drew a crowd. At one show, a retired mint employee studied the piece for over 10 minutes before quietly nodding and walking away, saying only, "That shouldn't exist." By 2019, the buzz had grown enough that a major numismatic journal published a feature on the find. The article confirmed that only one other 2014 bronze penny had ever been reported, and that one lacked the doubled reverse. Jordan's coin, therefore, remained unique, a one-of-a-kind collision of two minting errors from different eras. In early 2021, Jordan finally put the coin up for private auction. Bidders came from as far as Europe and Japan. After several rounds of heated offers, the coin sold for $67,000. The buyer, a well-known collector specializing in modern U.S. coinage, later displayed it at a private gallery exhibition titled "Flaws of Precision," showcasing rare minting errors from the 20th and 21st centuries. Today, that 2014 Lincoln penny lives in a custom display case, guarded by security and admired by collectors. It's a reminder that mistakes, even in the most controlled systems, can become masterpieces under the right lens. The story of its discovery has inspired a new wave of collectors to keep looking closer at the change in their pockets. Because once in a while, a coin is more than a coin. It's a mystery, a miracle, and a moment in history. Now, that same coin, if ever offered again, would carry an estimated value between $35,000 and $70,000, depending on the depth of interest from collectors and its condition at auction. For most, it's just a penny. For a few, it's a golden opportunity that proves even in the modern age, the rarest treasures can still come wrapped in copper.